David Brewster here with a new episode of Scales and Tales, and this is the major scale workout. And as I mentioned in yesterday's episode I posted surrounding the harmonic minor scale, I decided to make this a scale workout weekend. And this episode is going to involve the major scale, and the modal name there is Ionian. This is definitely one of the most common and popular sounds you're going to hear in all forms and styles of music. And it's very useful. Definitely a building block for understanding certain areas of music theory and scales and modes, and there's a lot of things you can kind of apply with the major scale. So definitely if you're looking to kind of boost your technique, picking and fretting and kind of synchronizing your hands together, this episode's totally for you. So here we go. So this episode is going to revolve around the key of B flat major, and we're going to be playing the B flat major scale, or B flat Ionian. And there's a lot of different ways we can play this scale. You can use, kind of simplified, kind of melodic level 1 fingerings. You can do 3 note per string. There's a lot of options here. You can tap the scale. There's tons of stuff you can do with this. But we're just going to lock in to a 3 note per string B flat major scale, which lives right here. And it's going to start there on B flat there on the 13th fret on the A string. And if you're not familiar with these shapes, which I definitely remember picking these up from studying, lessons and material from Paul Gilbert and John Petrucci and some players like that. But it's 3 notes per string, so it's really uniformed and kind of easy, for your fingers to kind of fall in line here. So for B flat major, played right here, it's going to look and sound like this. Pretty standard fingering, that's really common for sure. Definitely a lot of Paul Gilbert, instructional material revolves around that fingering right there. So we're going to use that, and you can see the notes there: B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, A, and then it repeats back at B flat again. So it's a 7 note scale. One more time right here. And there you can use legato, you can pick every note, you can do a half and half like we've been talking about in the previous episodes. But the important thing there is that's the tonality or scale we're going to basically approach and use. And we're going to create a melodic motif like we've been doing in the previous episodes. So that's just the raw scale, and then from there we can start adding sequencing or kind of moving through the notes in that scale in different ways. But here's an image showing the breakdown of B flat major, or B flat Ionian. So that's the scale and tonality we're going to use for this exercise. And this melodic motif came actually from classical music, specifically music from Bach. And I worked on some violin etudes and pieces of his and noticed the sequencing habit that popped up a lot in his music and other, classical composers. But I totally stole this from Bach. And, it's really interesting that within that major scale fingering, B flat major right here, it's really interesting that there are 3 minor triads hiding within that scale formation. And leave it to me to target, something major scale related, but I'm hitting minor, triads. I love minor keys and tonalities. But this is totally a Bach thing, so don't blame me, blame Bach. But it's interesting that there's, D minor, G minor, and C minor, triads hiding right in the middle of this. And those little minor triads are going to appear. We're going to kind of move through those are little triads, almost like an arpeggio, right in the middle of the scale sequence. So the melodic motif looks and sounds like this. One more time right here. So it has a really cool sound, and slowly you can kind of see what's happening. We're going to cruise up the first string and grab that B flat, C, and D. When you hit that D note, that's your cue to kind of hit that D minor triad that lives right there, the D, F, and A, like this. Right? And then reach up here. You're going to grab that C and then come down the scale. So there's like a moment of an arpeggio, and then you're descending, B flat major. So if you understand that, you got that under your fingers, we're going to basically do that all the way through the scale. So one more time, really slow here. And then right there from that E flat, we're going to do it again. We're going to incorporate that G minor triad that's living right there, but like this. So that's tricky, I'm not going to lie. here. And that's incorporating that C minor right there. So that's really cool, and I don't know what it is about the sound. It just has this kind of cool blend between scale and arpeggio. I guess that's it. And it's a major tonality, but you're hearing minor flavors kind of creeping in. Pretty cool. So it's really important to have that kind of, under your fingers and in your head. One more time, really slow. So for the complete major scale workout, we're going to take that B flat major melodic motif, and then we're going to start moving it down in minor thirds. So once again, leave it to me to target something that's related to the major scale. We're already targeting minor triads, and now we're moving in diminished, minor third intervals. So definitely, I'm not really a big fan of the major scale. It's a little bit too bright and happy, but doing this kind of work with it, it actually sounds pretty cool. And once again, that melodic motif is right here. So that's B flat major, and what we're going to do is move it down a minor third. That's going to put us in G major. So I'm just going to kind of move through this really slow like this. There's B flat major, now move to G major right here, same thing. The frets are spaced a little bit wider, you're playing it in a different position, your hand and wrist is kind of in a different position, so that's great to kind of move it around like that. Alright, and once you have it in G, we're going to move it down another minor third. Now it's E major, and it's going to be right here. One more time, kind of slower. Now from E, we're going to move it down another minor third. Now it's D flat major, or C sharp major. And once again, the frets are spaced wider, it's stretchier, like this. That's really tough right there. So one more time, slower. And then from there, we're going to go down one more minor third, and we're back where we started at B flat, but it's an octave lower. And that's the stretchiest form and shape we've had so far, so this is really tough. And one more time, slower. So right there, we just kind of relocated that and found, 5 different locations on the neck to play it. So it's a little different than what we were looking at with the previous workouts, but you have to admit, that's a huge challenge, especially for stretching and really getting that major scale into your fingers and on the fretboard. Now the ascending version of that melodic motif is really challenging, but the descending version is very challenging, and I haven't talked about that yet. But if you breeze through that whole workout and you're like, man, that's so easy, then try the descending version. That's a huge challenge. So ascending, looked and sounded like this. And then a variation of descending through that, which is not exact, but it's pretty similar as far as the movement and the flow, would look and sound like this. One more time, kind of slower here. Really tough, really weird, and that definitely is a huge challenge when moving down the fretboard. Another variation you could try here is you could move to the next set of strings just to kind of shake things up even further. So we were doing all that in B flat major. You could move everything right next door to F major like that. It is going to change the end of the sequence, but you can run a similar pattern like this. And right there it's F major, but we're doing this. Right there at the end, I kind of did that last bend, from E to F. But that's an interesting, sequence to investigate. Now, one final suggestion I'm going to give, and I'm not going to really run through this, but if I get some requests and feedback and you want me to kind of break this down, and that could be the next scale workout that we look at, I am going to return to regular, programming after this. We're going to get back to some chord play and three for all and stuff like that. But we can return to these scale workouts for sure. But the last suggestion here, since we're looking at B flat major or B flat Ionian, use your imagination and kind of think creatively, you could actually apply the sequence to all 7 of the modes, from Ionian to Locrian. And that really amps up the challenge, because then you're moving that sequence through Dorian and Phrygian and so on. That's a huge challenge and kind of the next step to playing with this. All right, that's going to wrap this episode of Scales and Tales with the major scale workout. And definitely after noticing the feedback and comments that poured in, from the blues scale and harmonic minor scale workout episodes, I'm really glad that I did this weekend. Because I noticed lots of people, thanking me, I love the blues scale, or I started working on harmonic minor. This is great. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. That's the whole point of this channel, is to help the viewers out there, get inspired and work on some new material, maybe discover some new bands or guitarists or ideas or licks or chords or whatever. And definitely these workouts are huge, technique boosts, whether, for your picking hand, fretting hand, or combinations of both. So anyway, leave some feedback and comments. Please subscribe to the Lessons, and I'll be back before you know it with more content and material. Thank you.